Welcome to the Mom Owned and Operated podcast, the podcast about moms and for moms, where we have candid conversations about running a business, raising a family, and remembering ourselves. I'm your host, Rita Suzanne, a single mom of four, digital strategist, and provider of no-nonsense business strategies and tactics. Hi, this is Mom Owned and Operated. I'm Rita Suzanne, and today I have my guest Nellie with me. Nellie, I'm so excited to chat with you. Please tell everyone all about you, your business, and your family.
Goodness. Let's take the next 24 hours. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, my name is Nellie Harden. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on the show. And so I live in coastal North Carolina with my family of 6. And so it's my husband and I, and we have 4 daughters who are all teenagers right now. So they are 14, 16, 16, and 19. And so to say we're busy is the biggest understatement ever. Always big things happening. So as of this year, we have everyone in high school and college. So big things always happening. But I started way back in, 20 plus years ago. My background is in biology and psychology. And believe it or not, I actually was going into marine mammalogy, and I did. And that was how I wanted to use biology and psychology and understanding behavior. And I did that for a while, and it was a beautiful experience, and I loved it, and got to go on the high seas in Australia and study humpbacks and do all the things. But I met my now husband when I was 18, and he is a 9-to-5 computer guy. Okay. So my high seas adventures and his 9-to-5 computer guy, especially after we got married, we wanted to start having kids, did not really mesh. And so I started doing some veterinary work and things like that. And when I got pregnant with twins, anyone listening with twins understands, I was like, okay, I'm retiring from animal work. I have enough animals that I have at home now that I need to take care of. And so I came home, but within a year after coming home, and now I have, 3 under 3, my husband got really sick, and he has a heart condition we didn't know about. And for about 2 years, he was in and out of hospitals, on and off of medications. And in that time, I really had to dive in and do a lot of work inside myself. We had to prepare for what could happen. And so I had to have really strong communication, even with my 2 to 4-year-old during that time. And obviously with my husband as well. And we had to make some really big changes within our family dynamics and our positive disciplines that we were having. So that was really the start of my transition from, humpbacks to humans, if you will. And so I took that time. He had heart surgery. We almost lost one of our daughters a few weeks after that, and from a drowning accident. And so we went through a lot of things around 2008 to 2010. And after that, around 2012, I really started using, and my family and I we started going to church, and we started to know the Lord around 2010. But I was just really called around 2012. Okay, you've done this for your family for now the last 4 years. It's time to go out and share with others. And I was like, what? What do you mean? But that's really how it started, and getting out there. And it's really been all about growth and positive disciplines, because I was a young woman that left home at 17 to go off to college. And, I moved 7 hours away from home, and I didn't see my family for months after that. And I wasn't a person that really had an internal structure of worth, esteem, or confidence when I went off into this great adventure. And as a woman, especially young men as well, but especially as a woman, when you do that, you end up chasing your worth anywhere you can find it. And that is what happened to me. going down every shiny corridor that said, come here and I will give you value. Come here and I will give you worth. It was an outside in, not an inside out. And that really led to some very hurtful things that happened way back when I was 17, 18 years old that have taken decades to heal from. And in the meantime, now I have 4 daughters within that time to raise up. So as an adult, going through my husband's illness, infertility that we also went through, having 4 kids in 4 years, that we did. I was also on a very personal, very vulnerable healing journey of my own in order to face things that happened, but also rebuild my foundation of worth, esteem, and confidence. So when I was then turning around and looking at my daughters, I was like, I need to build this in them during their formidable years, during when their brain function is still connecting, right? Ours still is too. Absolutely. We have some neuroplasticity, but nothing like we have when we're in adolescence. And so that's really where it started. And a number of years after that, I started developing strategies for myself as a woman that had to build or rebuild things, and then also as people that are raising up the next generation, be it a parent or a youth leader, a teacher, or a coach, or what have you. How can we set up an actual blueprint to help these young women grow with this foundation, but also make it to individuate to all their own personal needs, desires, personalities, developments, etc. So that's what I've been doing ever since and what I do today.
So do you work with people one-to-one, or do you have group programs? Like, how exactly is everything structured?
So I do both. I have a group program that is self-guided called Take the Lead. It's all about loving and leading her to a place that she loves and leads herself before she leaves home. And so that one you can get on and you can lead yourself through. And what's great about that, it's lifetime access. And so, anyone that's raised a child, and especially a young woman, knows, how they are at 8 is different than 9, different than 13, different. So it's a program you can always go back and revisit. And I'll be honest, I developed this program and then I was going through a rough time myself. I went through my own program and I was like, okay, now I know, how to do it. Because when you put this together, then going through it as a person in need of it, it's a much different process. So I can attest to it from the writer's perspective and also from the person that's been through it. But anyway, so that is self-guided and you can always go back to that as a resource. I highly recommend if you have a daughter anywhere between 6 and honestly around 23, 25, that is where you want to be and have access to that. And then I also have one-on-one that I do on a more limited basis for obvious reasons of time and things, but I do have a limited amount of space for one-on-one clients to have as well. And I do that pretty much worldwide, UK, Canada, US, etc. And so Australia and things like that. So yeah, one-on-one and group work to fit whatever need that you're having at the time. And a lot of times what that looks like is someone goes through the group program and they're doing this and they're guiding, but they run into a snag, a personal snag, a very specific snag. And they're like, can we have some one-on-one time? And if you're in the program, you get discounted on that one-on-one time versus if you're not in that program as well.
So has the group program or one-on-one, which one has been, or any other thing has been the game changer for you as far as profitability in your business? What has been the best for you?
I would say the group program, just because it's unlimited, right? It's out there, it's unlimited, and you can do that. And the one-on-ones have also been very profitable and giving and value giving, but it's just more limited because I can only do that on a couple of days a week because I'm also, an author, I'm writing a book, I'm doing all these other things and I speak a lot. And so that one is just more time limited.
Yeah. So, okay. So that has been your biggest source. Has that been your biggest source of revenue to date, the group program?
Yes, I would also say I co-authored a book and then I also have a scripture journal out as well. And so those are also, great streams of value and income coming in. But yeah, I would definitely say it is the group program.
I love that. So what's been the most valuable financial lesson that you could share with other mom-owned businesses?
I would say to just go with your gut and I say that because I've been through business coaching programs, several of them, 3 big ones you invest all this money into as a mom, entrepreneur or a woman entrepreneur. And I invested, thousands into them. And then they're like, oh, well, you should sell your program at $10,000. And I'm like, really? Not that I don't think doesn't have that value, because I mean, honestly, I think it's priceless. It is. I wish people could go home from the hospital with their daughters with this program in hand. It is so valuable. But I also want to make impact out there. And I did a wonderful survey of, I think it was like 400 people worldwide. I took months to do it. And this was about 2 years ago. And, what are the challenges you're running into? What are some resources that you wish were out there? What are the biggest hurdles that you're facing as a parent, or things that you're scared of, right? All these things. And I knew, and one of the questions too was, what would you be able to or willing to pay for something like this? And there's no way. I think maybe 2 of that 400 people were like, I can surely slap down $10,000, right? And it just didn't feel right in my gut to have this beautiful value, packed program out there that could only go to a couple of people.
Yeah, I think that oftentimes, unfortunately, some of these business coaches get into that mindset of, if it's not super expensive, then you're not really valuing yourself or your program or anything like that. And they're not taking into consideration who your target audience is. And your target audience of parents don't really have $10,000 to slap down on a course.
Right.
I don't think that most of them are willing to do that, especially as a parent myself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, yeah, just follow your gut and say, what would, if I were in the shoes of my target audience, which, by the way, we should all be in the shoes of our target audience, right? Or have been at some point, so we can truly relate and understand what they need. But what could I have done in order to invest in something that would help me in this way? And that's it. It honestly took me years, because I had so many people barking in my ears to jack up the prices, keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. My course is 50 videos and all of these resources and things, because it's lifelong. And they're like, oh, there's no way you can have that for less than $10,000. I was like, but then I can't help her and her and her and her. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that, knowing your target audience is super important, but also knowing their pain points and knowing their buyer behaviors. Buyer behaviors are really good insights to take a look into, and knowing how your target audience buys is really critical. And knowing, like, do they research a lot before they buy? Do they compare? Do they read reviews? All of these things are super critical. So let's move on. We talked a little bit before we pressed record about marketing, and we talked about social media. But what is one marketing tactic or strategy that you're doing right now that's kind of working for your business? Because I know that we're having some issues over here with Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I did was just come on and be honest. There is, again, so many people will try to tell you, oh, this is the algorithm, do this, and you have to post at this time, and you need to, go out and search it. They just give you this whole laundry list of things that need to do, but it honestly didn't fit into my life, and especially the work that I'm doing. And I am bringing life and breathing life into these families and these women in order to build worth, esteem, and confidence. I was finding my own depleting by being on there so much and following all these quote unquote rules, which honestly were antiquated the second I got them. Because as I was telling you, I was at a conference earlier and they said that the algorithm for Meta changes every 5 seconds. And I was like, well, for goodness sakes, by the time I get, someone learns this and comes up with a curriculum for it and teaches me, I'm a good 6 to 12 months out of, this algorithm. And so it's very antiquated. And so I just had to do what was right for me, but also being professional about it and give yourself parameters and boundaries. Have social media be a part of your business in business hours. Don't leak it out to everywhere you go, because you'll feel like you're always on there, right? And so one of the best things I was able to do is I give myself 1 hour each day, Monday through Friday, not on the weekends. It doesn't mean I don't go on there on the weekends to just check out things, but business wise, I give myself 1 hour, and that is for content creation and posting. And I do that for myself from 10 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. And then I'm like, okay, I did it and it's good. Now, I'll also say right now, which isn't actually recommended, but for my own mental health and prosperity for this summer, because again, I have 4 teenage daughters. Some, one of them is home from university, and summertime is very busy and very, very precious in my family. So for me, I told all of my communities at the end of May that June 1st to August 12th, I am going to be off of here, and I miss you. And I will, be gathering information. I've taken this time. I've read over 16 books, in this time. And it's really my time to step back and, assess, really take in what we're doing as a family and also trajectory I want to go to. So it's been really nice to take that step back. But if you do that, make sure you tell your audience that you're doing that and you don't just disappear, because they're, people will go there after they hear you and be like, oh, well, she doesn't do anything on here. And that's not true. So be sure you have something out there.
So could we say that your marketing strategy is more so podcasting, like interviews and speaking appearances versus like posting on social media? Would you say that's more in alignment with your strategy?
Yeah, 100%. I do a lot of speaking, and I probably speak 2 to 3 times a week, and do it that way. I love collecting people's stories. I'm just a story girl, and I love to share my story if it helps others, but also I love just connecting with people and collecting their stories as well. And so it's just how I work. And so that's a part of being a business owner, is understanding yourself and how you work. And, you know, something I teach and work with, your identity is not something you go and find per se. It isn't somewhere out in a field of daisies that you're like, which one is me? I think that one is me. It is not something you go and find. It is something you build, though. And so sit down with yourself, journal, really have time to think and clear the space in your head and say, okay, where do I actually want to go? And then build the steps in order to get there. And then you will have so much more clarity than you ever had before. But instead of the outside in with everybody telling you what you should do, figure out where you want to go and go there. And if you quiet the mind and get there and have that clarity, you'll be able to get there.
I love that you said that, because something that I've been talking about lately is about overworking, right? Like you're working. I think a lot of us moms do this. We work so much. We're constantly doing something, whether it's work or around the house, and we really don't give ourselves enough space to just be, right?
Yeah.
To just sit and be. And so I heard this analogy, and it kind of fits in, and I'm just going to sneak in real fast and tell it, because I think that it's kind of goes along with what you're saying. And so there's this, you can either be the cow or you can be the lion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always telling myself, like, be the lion, right? And so with the way the cow is gathering its food, it's constantly like walking around, grazing, getting its food. And if we look at the way that a lot of us work, we're constantly working, right? If we're not on our computers, we're on our phones, we're constantly have our minds engaged with something.
Yeah.
And but conversely, the way the lion works and the way the lion hunts for its food, it sits and it waits. And that way it's resting. And then when it's time, it's ready and it
Mm,
pounces and it goes after, and then it goes after its food and eats, because it's reserving its energy and then it's able to go. And I think that a lot of times, if we are not reserving our energy, then we cannot go, right? Like then we're moving at the speed of the cow. We're like,
so
we're,
true.
yeah. And so I love that. And so I'm constantly telling myself, like, be the lion, because otherwise in my mind, I'm just so driven that it's so hard for me sometimes to turn that off, you
Yeah.
know? And then I get burnt out because I'm like, oh, there's not enough on my plate. Like I need 5 more of them over here,
Yeah.
So it's just something that I've been working on. And yeah, so
That's so good. Just this morning, I live on the coast in North Carolina, and I just came back from a family vacation, and we were down at the ocean in the Caribbean, and I came back and I was like, I live at the ocean and I do not go there nearly enough. So I dropped my youngest daughter off at camp this morning, and I drove 1 mile down the road, and I got out and I took a 2 mile walk right on the beach. And I'm like, why do I not do this more often? And I just had my AirPods in, and it was beautiful. It was like storming off in the distance, but not on me. And I was just listening to great music. And I was like, okay, I need to do this a lot more often. But it was the first time in a while that I had just just been, because normally if I'm walking, I'm listening to a book or what have you, and I'm getting more and more and more information in. But today I was like, you know what? I'm tempted, but I am not going to listen to a book. I am not going to take any information in. I'm just going to listen to music and let it be. And it was so great. So great.
yeah, I love that. Okay, so that kind of it goes hand in hand with what my next question is, which is, how do you define success in your business? Is it solely based on financial, or is there some other factor, which we kind of already spoke about this, but
Yeah.
let us know.
It's definitely not based off of financial. I have a very impact driven business. And so, I mean, I'm not going to lie, the financial is great, and it's what helps
Yeah.
I mean, I have 4 kids to send to college, so
Of
there's a lot to be said there. But for me, I volunteer. I am just a servant person at heart. I always have been. And so if I can get out there and make my words and actions matter and impact somebody and help their lives better for it, then that is what success is for me. It is being in line with my gifts and my talents and my calling. And if I can do that, then that is success.
I agree. Okay, so let's talk about your favorite tools. Is there a favorite tool, app, software, or something that you use in your business that kind of helps create more efficiency in your life that you want to share?
There's 2 I want to mention. And number 1, it's so silly, but it's just paper. Honestly, I am a paper girl. I mean, on my desk right here, I have spiral notebooks. I have a journal. I have my schedule. I have everything. And there's something about the brain connection when you write something down that really is just so powerful. It gets in there deeper. And also journaling, which I think is really, really important. I think everyone needs to do it. And my youngest daughter is 14. And, if anyone in our family has ADHD, it's going to be her, right? She's just all over the place. And the furthest thing from her mind that she wants to do is journal. But I was like, listen, when you're speaking and when you're thinking, your mind is going so fast. And if you write things down, it will force you to go slower and actually think about what you're saying and what's coming in and what you're putting out into the world. And so it's really important to do that and help you just, there's this, my very first blog I ever wrote ages and ages ago was called Consolidated Chaos. And that's what I think our brains are, each one of us, consolidated chaos in there, especially a woman. And so having that journaling is really important. So paper, honestly, for scheduling and all the things. But an electronic thing that I really love is Trello. I use Trello a lot because I just need to organize my thoughts. And I love it. You could just drag and drop it and put this here and there. And it's free. So Trello is something that I highly recommend. And of course, Dropbox. I honestly don't know where I'd be without Dropbox. So those would be what I'd recommend.
I love it. So since we talked about what are you listening to or reading right now, since we talked about when you're usually walking, what are you listening to or reading typically?
I am usually listening to anything from my fellow companions authors that are out there writing in this space. Leadership, because all of my work leads up to being a self-disciplined leader of your own life. And so I read a lot on leadership right now. I'm reading John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership. I've met him. He's great. I've read several of his books. So that's the one I'm reading right now. But yeah, I listen to a lot of my colleagues and their work too, just because I want to be able to put out there and meet them and collaborate with them in order to create bigger impact. So one of my daughters, all my daughters are big readers, and they, of course, in their, life right now, read a lot of fiction. And they're like, Mom, why don't you read fiction? I was like, oh, girlfriend, I have no time for fiction. Like, real life is spicy enough, like I need, I'm getting all the nonfiction. I will maybe sometime in my future get back to fiction, but it is not that season for me right now.
I'm with you. I haven't read any fiction in forever. It's always like business or self-care related, like growth, wherever, that may be. And it's been like that for years. But okay, so the last question that I always ask is, what are you doing for self-care? What are you doing just for you?
For me, it's I'm an introvert, and so I have to have alone time and movement every day. And so if I don't have those two things, then it's the day quite literally derails for me. So I need some time in the morning where I'm doing my quiet time. I'm journaling, I'm reading, and then I have to have movement in there every day. And, back when I was talking about, and my husband got so sick, movement became such an integral part of my life. I know, because we didn't know if he was going to make it or stay around. And so even though growing up, it wasn't such a huge part, I knew I need to move every day if I'm going to be here for my kids, grandkids, maybe great grandkids. Right. And so that's just really ingrained in me at this point.
I think super important. Okay. So where can everyone find you? Where are you at online?
I like to keep it simple. So everything is at nellieharden.com. So that's just NELLIEHARDEN.com. And you'll find the resources, the books, the programs, the one-on-ones, and all my social communities on there as well. And you can sign up if you do have any young women in your life that you help, whether you're a teacher, youth leader, parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent, etc., that every Friday I will be putting out a newsletter and a new guide for you every Friday.
Love it. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
And there you have it. I want to encourage you to remember that being a mom who runs her own business is not easy. We all struggle, but just keep moving forward and don't forget to make time for yourself. As moms, we are usually the first thing to go to the bottom of the list. If your business is overwhelming you, and you need real solutions, not just some sugar-coated suggestions, apply to work with me at ritasuzanne.com/apply.